Hey guys, I'm Brittany.
I'm Maria.
Welcome to the Be More podcast. And it's a late night episode, which means I have minimal functioning happening upstairs right now.
Yeah, scheduling conflicts again, but we're here.
It's okay. I'm so excited to get into this episode. But before we get into this episode, I have to stop and for a moment just say, like, Happy Martin Luther King Day. I feels like I don't like this holiday, but I like the purpose of this holiday. I just don't like the
I
way
was
that
gonna
we,
say, wait, you gotta rephrase that before I air this.
I don't like the way we catch all this holiday, and I don't like the way that
Oh
we
yeah.
observe it as in America.
hmm
I don't, and that me not liking the holiday and me not liking the person are two different things. I just
That's why
don't
I was
like
like, explain before.
it's kind of
Yeah,
like the way we stamp like National French Fry Day. It just doesn't
it's like
seem
Martin Luther King Day. Yeah,
seem properly celebrated or justified. Um,
hmm like Christmas or like I don't know, any other
I just
national holiday. Yeah,
yeah. It's funny because even like the next closest holiday we celebrate is like Valentine's Day. And it's like, cool, Valentine's Day, at least we like give cards to people. Like, what do we actually do on this day? It just, aside
yeah.
from
It's like
kids getting out of school, it irks me.
yeah,
Um,
like no other awareness of like the
but
fight. Yeah,
yeah. And the lack, it's interesting
it's like Black History
because,
Month.
right, a single month or anything else we do to
Yeah.
band-aid the actual
Yeah.
serious situation we are in. But I wanted to ask, in honor of this, I wanted to have a small moment to talk about things around race. I had a really interesting conversation with some colleagues of mine, um, two of which were people of color, and we were having a conversation about experiences that they've had that were microaggressions and things, and
Sure. Yeah.
how other people have responded to them. And it brought up the question of, and like our kids, our students experiencing microaggressions. And we started this conversation and this dialogue about, well, we don't want to force the kids to have to stand up for themselves or have to be the people who educate or be the ones who are responsible to say anything. And then we were like, but we don't want to impose it on the kids to have to take on that responsibility. And what was super interesting to me was that one of the people that I was having the conversation with, who is a person of color, made the statement that she thinks that she feels grateful. Maybe grateful is not the word. She feels like she can sigh a breath of relief if a white person steps into those situations and corrects the person who makes the statement.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
she feels that the responsibility to educate and to stand up to those things comes from the people of color. And then she said this very interesting thing. It can't always come from the same person.
Oh, I agree. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Like
Okay,
as in like the person of color. It can't just always be from that person of color that you're being educated from.
why do you agree?
So I'll just backtrack on the whole situation. So I do feel much better when white people help me out, right? Like I when the microaggressions happen and like if I'm in a place with a white person and they also are aware that something's happening, I feel better that it's just like not just in my head. I think that's like where I come from when like it in terms of
It's
like
validated.
right, it's just like, oh, am I taking this like and of course every situation is valid, right? Like but me and anyone like there's just some anxiety that it's just like am I overreacting? So it is validating, especially when like a white person like is like, no, that's fucked up, right? Um and then two, I do agree with like it should be from a person of color, helping to educate. There I read a tweet that I think it was a tweet, maybe another TikTok that I saw. um, that someone asked like in particular just Filipinos, like, is it valid if a white person told a Filipino story like on a movie? Like, is that still a valid Filipino story? And the thread was like, no, like what does it mean? Like, yeah, you can be around Filipinos and like live in the Philippines and be white, but like you don't know what the Filipino story is, right? So like
And
that's Go
The
ahead.
question that I have is like, why isn't the Filipino person capable of telling their own story? Like, why not
And
make
that's
space for the
exactly what
Filipino?
the reply was from the poster. It was just like,
Interesting.
agreed. It should be the Filipinos with their own voices telling the stories,
Right.
which kind of goes back into why that person thinks that people of color should be telling their own stories because
Mm.
we have the firsthand
Oh,
experience
yeah.
for sure. And like, yes, Brittany, if you've been around BIPOC your whole life, like you can't tell my story, like
I
but some
can't even get my own story out.
but some people feel like they're privileged enough to even do that, you
Mm.
know,
Mm.
and like that's not the allyship that we want. It's more like
Hmm.
giving us the
I mean,
place at the table as opposed to you taking over our
that's
place at
not
the
an
table.
allyship at all, right? That's
Exactly.
a
No,
manipulation of a
right. And
relationship as
ex
a power
ex
over thing.
exactly. That's still a power structure that you're still, white patriarchy, whatever, still dealing with. But, um, and then so the third point of like it shouldn't be on like the one person to go like again, just an example between the two of us is like if you went to me for everything, right? Like,
Right. But I mean, look at
and
Martin Luther King Jr. specifically. Like, look at Martin Luther King Jr.
uh-huh.
Look at how much burden of his whole life and like a significant, the greatest possible, um, I can't think of the word. My brain is literally not on,
Speech,
you guys. No,
march.
the consequence, like the
Ah,
greatest sacrifice that you could make, he made with his whole life. Because it was he who, I mean, there were other people that were around him, right? But it comes back to all of the like Malcolm X and the great names that we know there until like the Black Panthers, really, right?
mhm.
Even within the Black Panthers, there are some famous names that we hear more than others, but the burden falls on one person, and we've seen what
Mhm.
that's like.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way, right?
I and it right like that. I had this whole moment where she was talking about this and explaining this, and I was like, I can totally see that. And that's where you see the difference, right? Instead of everybody feeling like they're fighting against one person, fighting against
Yeah, air
you're
quotes.
fighting against the masses, right? It's and it kind of seems like it would make sense, right? Like if multiple people got involved, it's harder to fight everybody than it is to fight one person.
That's why it's a
And
skate. It's like they can point fingers and be like,
right,
it's them.
it's
Yeah.
and then the question becomes how much of it is just out of convenience to, I mean, if you like, again, a perfect example, if you look at groups like the Black Panthers, it's easier to break them down if you target them individually. Just like this is a terrible analogy, but it's really true. When like animals, wolves and stuff and coyotes go and hunt things, they hunt and split up herds so that they can find the weakest link, right? And it's
Yeah.
not necessarily the weakest link as a part of the analogy, but they split people up so that it's easier to take them down.
Mm-hmm.
That's really sad that that's a relatable uh,
Relatable content. Yeah.
concept to what we're talking about. But the conversation we went to have and the dialogue that we opened up out of that was about, well, how do we start this, right? How does this, and especially in a situation as educators, where do we guide this to have a better impact? But it was so interesting because I feel like so much of the time I hear so many people and I read so many things about who, in terms of like race, whose responsibility is it? But I've never heard and it has to be multiple people before. That part and
Oh, that part. Yeah.
the thought behind it and the perspective behind it was just, and I think I I I think that we are hopefully at a turning point in that being more prevalent now than it was during MLK Jr.'s time of life.
Well,
I
if
have
you
some
look
hope
at
for that.
like Black Lives Matter,
Mm,
right? Like, there's a lot of people. I think the common person doesn't know who the head of that is.
yeah. Yeah.
It's just a massive movement now. It's
Right.
not, yes, there are still people like Martin Luther King Jr. that are speaking like him, but you can't pinpoint one person for the whole
Right.
movement anymore.
Which is the beautifully dangerous thing about it, is that the
Yeah,
more people that you have involved, the more difficult it is to disband something of that nature.
100%. So I mean, we are in the right direction. Obviously, it's more talked about now. I feel like even like it feels like the younger generations are more progressive.
Yeah, and they're definitely more socially aware.
Yeah, which is a good thing. So, and of course, there's always going to be those, unfortunately, QAnon people. It's just the way that the world is.
And you want to know what the suckiest part is? That when we fight for freedom and we fight for what this country stands for, what this country was truly, no, nope, nope. I rescind everything that I just said. When we fight for the idea of what freedom really is in this country, it gives a right to people on both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, the more freedom that you give any side, the other side is gonna literally get the equal amount.
Right.
Agreed, 100%.
That's the concept, the unfortunate reality of freedom.
Yep.
Speaking of a freedom that we all have,
Great segue.
thanks. The freedom of laughter. Not at all a great segue. I've done so much better before. But as we talked about at the end of our last episode, I have been itching to talk about the history of laughter. But it's okay. So let me start off with this story. So a couple of weeks ago, Dan and I were having a conversation about my husband and I have very similar humor. So we were laughing really hard about something. And I was like, it was hurting my stomach. Like I was literally in pain from laughing hard. And I was like, why? Which proceeded to make us laugh more. I was like, why do we laugh?
What a great question while you're laughing.
I mean, this is my train of thought, right? A million things at once. I was like, why do we laugh? And he was like, what do you mean? Why do we laugh? And I was like, it's an interesting thing to think about because it's one of the things that our bodies do, but doesn't serve a purpose for us. Like us, aside from something like necessarily like emotional or social, like we cry, right? It's an emotional thing when we cry, but at the same time, like we cry for like other purposes, right? You tear up if you have something in your eye. Right,
right, like a biological like response
like it has
to
a
something.
function, right? Yeah, it has a function for us. But what function does laughing have? And if we don't have an actual function for it, where did it come from?
Did you find the answer? Because I have no idea what the answer is. Okay,
yes, I found the answer. So I was telling Maria, you guys, that I went on a little like deep dive into the internet to find and understand laughter more because I am somebody. Laughing is a huge part of the person that I am, and it's a huge part of what makes me my personality. So, and not to mention the fact that I have a very dark humor. But I was like, well, how does that happen? Right? Where does it come from? But like the science of the way we laugh is all related to our breathing.
Oh.
Like think about how you laugh. What makes you laugh? You laugh because of the way that you breathe, which is why when you laugh so much, it starts to like bother your chest and bother your stomach. You're essentially just breathing out.
Yeah, you're not breathing in.
You're just breathing out and catching your breath and then breathing out, and just constantly constricting like your diaphragm and constricting your core, like the muscles around your core, like squeezing you. And I was like, I just thought it was the most interesting thing in the world. Because can you think of any other thing that we do that has no purpose? Like for us as like a human?
Oh, Jesus.
Like I don't think there's anything else that we do that has like no actual purpose for us. Except maybe talking, right? Except maybe talking. Like talking serves no purpose for us, like body functioning wise. It's a tool for survival for us to communicate.
Okay, sure. Yeah, because yeah, that makes sense. I guess other than that, I can't think of anything.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it a weird like moment to have when you realize
what does blinking do? Oh, I guess just to
keeps your eyes moist.
Keeps your eyes moist. I just answered yeah. As soon as I said it, I was like,
you close your eyes.
Protects, yeah.
It protects your eyeball.
Yeah. I have no idea. I can't think of anything. Laughing, yeah. I mean,
and like so we have saliva because we need to keep our mouths moist. And then we just happen to like
what are hiccups for?
I think no, hiccups are a glitch.
Is that a glitch in our system?
Yeah, for sure. Hiccups are just when the muscle contracts and stays like constantly.
It literally just a glitch. It's just like, oh shit! Like
it's just a glitch.
Cool.
Another thing that we should look into though is I'm curious if other animals or any other species also hiccup or have to experience hiccups. That's a side
Dogs
question.
Do they? Dogs do. Yeah, I've seen a dog like I think Oolong has hiccuped. I feel like I've seen a dog hiccup.
So this is not related to this at all, I promise. listeners that
Yeah.
we are going to get to the history of laughter, but this is how you end up down the rabbit hole of curiosity. When you hiccup, do you get like multiple hiccups?
Just backed up. Like,
Do you like
just
keep
like,
getting hiccups
yeah, yeah,
consistently?
yeah. It's
So
fucking annoying. I
they
hate it.
are really annoying, and I get them to the point now where they hurt. Like I get them for so long that
Oh,
they physically hurt and I can't get them to go away. But I started to notice as we've gotten older that I
yeah.
do this thing now, two really weird times that I hiccup. If I drink anything carbonated, I hiccup immediately.
Okay.
Just
Interesting.
once, just
Okay.
once. And it's the first sip that I take. And then I also hiccup, and then I know this is my own fault. I hiccup when I start to like speak too quickly. I'll get like a single hiccup because I can't regulate the amount of air going in and out. I think that's why that is.
When I think about hiccuping, I feel like I'm about to hiccup.
Okay, so let's go past the. And if anybody else has anything interesting related to their hiccups,
Like I
please, I
feel like
want
it's
to know.
right here
If
already.
anybody knows why I have random hiccups, and I would love to know why.
I have no idea.
Okay, so my journey of understanding the history of laughter started me in I read this really interesting story from 1962. Now this is not where the history of laughter starts, but it's the history of where my journey started. So
Two different things right now.
Two different things, just to clarify. Laughing existed way before 1962, everybody. Just want that on the record. Okay, so there is this like study and this story, these journal stories from 1962, where something called laughing disease erupted in a Swahili boarding school.
Did you start laughing?
So
uncontrollable
essentially,
laughter?
the story was that all of like the kids just like a little girl started laughing, and then all of these kids started laughing to the point of where they couldn't get them to stop. It was something that they had for weeks, and they ended up closing down the school and sending all of the kids home. And their laughing contagion spread to members of their family.
Was there a reasoning why this happened?
So the reason why they ended up realizing that what it related to, what they thought it would related to, and what they discovered was that the living situation that they had in their boarding school was so terrible that it was like a really strict and rigorous environment that wasn't giving them the best like food or any of the best basic rights that they need as humans. And this laughing disease erupted as like a psychotic, well, not
break?
psychotic, but the brain's way of saying like I have to interrupt the fact that there's something so bad going on here and no one is recognizing it. So these kids, it was like the way of these kids saying like that something was really wrong.
Yeah.
That they didn't know what else to do, and like as a I don't know, their psychological response to it was to just start laughing. And it got to the point where all of the kids were like misery loves company, that it spread across all of the kids.
That's wild.
And it became their way of trying to communicate that something was wrong, but they had done everything else, right? They had cried, they had been in other like emotional states and trying to communicate and couldn't, and their brains were just like, okay, this is what we're gonna try now.
Yeah. That's wild.
Right? Isn't that a wild story? I couldn't believe, and that was only in 1962. That wasn't that long ago.
We need a psychologist on here to talk about that.
We really should. Anybody who studies laughter, please come back.
Yeah.
And come sit with us. So this stemmed me back to really understanding where laughter comes from. And I could dive way deeper down in this hole and just be very happy down there. But laughter started as a form of socialization, which isn't surprising, right? Because if you think
makes sense.
I thought about this after I was reading it. I can't think of a time, and Dan and I had this conversation a little bit too. Like I can't think of a time where I openly like laughed while I was by myself. Or like didn't have the influence of something else around me.
Oh, I was saying like that was me literally this morning. I don't know what you're talking about, but I was watching TV though. It wasn't like
right. Okay, totally. Okay, that's totally fine.
I thought you meant like just like alone. I'm laughing at my TV. Like
when do we make ourselves laugh?
Without any other like outside influence, right? I don't think there's an instance.
Right. I've done things where talk about laughing because something is seriously wrong, but I've had days where like I just the last thing to happen that I need to happen, I spill something and I just get so angry and then I start laughing like I'm
just like, this is so
losing my
stupid.
brains.
Yeah.
And you start laughing like, I can't believe this is happening. But when do we ever laugh without any like recollection of an experience or an event or a connection to other people? We don't.
No, we don't. I feel like same thing with, well, no, crying happens just involuntarily sometimes.
Yep. And I can speak from
No, it's
personal
like, well,
experience on that.
but no, laughing, I don't think you make yourself just laugh.
Right? Like we need some type of something to
Like,
happen to
yeah,
make
some
us
other
laugh.
like external thing.
So
Yeah.
one of the research and like the articles that I went through said that people are 30 times more likely to laugh in the presence of others than when they're alone, which doesn't surprising, right? Based off of what we just said. But what is surprising is that ability for like the percentage of us to be able to laugh so much more, 30% more when we're around people, is something that's grown from our social relationships as, primates and as what we were before we were humans. And it's not just us who has this. So I want you to listen.
Oh my God, it's a listening. It's a listening podcast.
Listening involved. Okay, ready? I want you to listen to this animal laughing, and I want to see if you can guess what animal this is.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, ready?
Yeah,
right,
share your computer audio.
Okay, ready?
Sure, I'm scared, y'all.
Laughing.
Go ahead.
Okay, guys, this is for you at home too. Let's see if you can guess what animal this is. I feel like some people who are like more online already have seen this video and totally know what it is.
Oh God.
Ready?
Let's see. Yeah.
What animal is
I
that?
have no idea what that is.
Isn't it ridiculous sounding?
I want to say a bird, but it's I
I'll
don't
play
think
for
it
you one more
is.
time.
Yeah, go ahead.
But think about the way you know how birds laugh, because birds
I
laugh
know.
very similar to the way humans
like
laugh.
shrill, yeah.
Okay, ready?
It also sounds like a dog now. Is it like a four-legged animal, like a goat or something? Like I have no idea.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna show you.
Oh God, guys, I have no idea. It just sounds like so ridiculous. Hold on, sharing screen. Oh, it's a fox. That makes sense. The dog, that's where the dog kind of.
That's the part that gets me. The part that goes
laughing.
Yes, it's getting tickled.
Oh, that's cute.
It's ticklish. She's tickling him.
Oh, that's so cute.
I like foxes so much more now because I feel like they have the creepiest faces on the face of the earth. And then I saw that and I was like, all right, I'm okay with foxes now.
That's cute. I didn't know they could laugh, not gonna lie.
Well, apparently there are tons. Oh, wait. I must have the wrong thing. There are tons of animals that laugh. Yes. And it baffled me. So it goes back
also, you've never heard your cat laugh, right? Like that's
I've never heard. And Dan and I were just talking about this, about how I don't think cats, and again, this is another rabbit hole I'd have to drive down. I've never heard of cats laughing. I think that the equivalent of cats laughing is purring, and you'll see why in a second. So I have to read all of my notes, but the way that a lot of this originated and the way that the concept of laughing started was because it's the way that animals communicate, like, okay, we're not in danger. It's okay if we keep playing. Like, we're not fighting. We're just playing here and I'm okay with it. And they're just using it as a way to show the difference between like, we're being social right now and this is okay and this is something bad versus like
makes
growling,
sense, yeah.
right? There was no equivalent. Like growling meant something is wrong, right? Or certain sounds meant something is wrong, but what equivalent did they have to something being okay? Aside from like if you were a baby with your mom and you were squealing and stuff like that, like what equivalent did any animal species have? So laughter started out as like a building blocks for being social.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it makes
That's
so
cool,
much
though.
Isn't it cool? It makes so much sense when you look at the way, like, what's an animal that you can think of that like laughs and does the most ridiculous things like with each other?
All you think was like hyenas whenever like laughter comes out, and I think that's just like a Lion King thing.
But like animal relationships where you see them like super playful and they laugh at each other and they like
Um, I don't know. I don't
I
like
don't think we spend enough time around them
yeah,
um
to really
to
notice.
really notice because I think we have to spend more time in like areas where they are. But all right, we're gonna go to the next video that I want you to see because I died of it was just adorable. Think of another you can't think of another like animal species that
That just plays around with
yeah,
each other. I'm
yeah.
only thinking about like dogs, honestly. And like,
Okay, yeah. But they don't laugh.
I know that's the thing. They don't fucking laugh.
Okay, ready? I want you to just listen to this. But one of the biggest connections that came out, or like the biggest areas of study that have come out that I found about laughter are people studying monkeys laughing.
Oh, I forgot about
You,
that.
I
Just a
forgot.
whole
But
like
it's when
monkey
was the last
species.
time you saw monkeys, right? Like it's
Yeah,
been
I'm
such a
not
long
like
time.
I'm not an avid fan of zoos,
Um,
so
I mean, I'm not either, so
yeah.
I totally understand that. But there's like the fine line between
Oh yeah, they do
being
laugh
able
a
to
lot.
to
Sorry.
see like and like they find
Yeah.
everything funny, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
joke about like who flung poo, like they find that hysterical.
Uh-huh.
The fine line between, who are we the most connected to, the most related to in other animal species, but they don't necessarily speak, right? Or like
Yeah.
communicate the same way we do, but they have a
Yeah.
lot of other similarities. So I'm just gonna make you listen to this video too now. It's the cutest thing in the freaking world. Ready? Okay, ready? Just listen.
Going to tickle him.
See that? That face.
Scientists have
And you can really hear him like, like breathing out and doing it. I love.
Wait. No, because okay, it's super funny. I agree. Also, I was just thinking about Oolong, my sister's dog, and like she gets out of breath that it's similar to that. I'm like, is that them laughing then? And then
Maybe because
I've heard a dog laugh.
I've seen like videos of like dogs' faces
Just like
getting really,
super,
and it
yeah.
seems like based on the some of the data that I was going through that there's like a
Yeah.
fine line between when dogs pant and when
Yes.
they're laughing
When
because
they're
they don't
happy.
necessarily make the same sounds that humans do.
Yeah.
Um, but
Oh, that's
I was
probably
just
yeah.
the
That's so
freaking
funny.
video was so cute.
Also,
Um,
the scientists or whatever in the back, like I'm gonna
for
tickle
the
him.
name
I'm
of
like,
science. Well, that
okay.
whole video is related to like, do animals laugh? And chimpanzees have been studied really in depth because of
That's cute though.
something that we'll get to something they have similar to us.
Sure.
But yeah, laughter started as a form of communication that was social, which makes sense as to now when you think about us as humans. Um,
Hmm.
there's research that says that humans tend to laugh, not their laughter doesn't necessarily interrupt their speech, but they laugh through words.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you'll laugh while you're talking, and just like to show that like playfulness. And I just I was blown away by all of this. But this type of laughing, studies have shown that from as far as we understand now, that between 2 million and 4 million years ago. Oh wait, that's a lie. Did we? Yeah, no, that's not a lie.
It's the truth.
2 million, 4 million years ago, did we only start laughing because of like personality and humor? But evolutionary origins of human laughter go back up to 16 million years.
That's wild.
Right?
Wow. So that was just really just a survival thing
Right? Isn't this
beforehand. Just
absolutely astonishing?
like I'm not anxious, guys. Like this is a good situation I'm in. I'm gonna start laughing. And now it's a
Yes.
social thing. That's cool.
Yeah, and now we can respond to humor because we have like personality and we see things. And one of the really cool things that I
Maybe that's why we can fake laugh. You know how we
yeah, and
can
like
yeah.
now we can control it. Now we can control it in
Now
ways
we
that
can
we
just
couldn't before. And I think one of the reasons connected to this, um, I read a study because I'm a nerd. I read through a study that looked at the different types of like frequencies in laughters and like the like acoustics in laughters, like the breaks and when there was silence and when they like and um the way that humans and the way that only certain types of like monkeys are able to laugh, we're able to adjust like the sound of our laughter in ways that other animals can't.
Oh, so we have more control.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Like of like the pitch of our laugh or like how we're breathing when we're laughing so that we can laugh different ways based on different situations because now we're laughing for more than now we're
Yeah.
laughing as like a personality trait
As opposed to
instead
like
of just
laughing at
being
the as opposed to laughing at that asshole next to you that you just want to like let them leave and just
right.
like say their two piece and be like, haha, okay, great. Thanks, Greg, or whatever your name is.
It's just baffling. And so to take this a step further, my next question was like, okay, so why do babies laugh?
Oh,
Right? If we have all of this like social understanding and all of this stuff, like how did
maybe
babies learn to laugh? And when does a baby's laughter stop being like
genuine,
a form of communication that everything's okay and start actually being a response to
a
like
personality trait, like a
yeah,
person,
like humor. And there's this interesting gray area. So
but that is
this
interesting
baffled me.
because not everyone has the same humor. Obviously, when as we're growing up, some people have, some people just don't have humor. Some people have a lot of humor.
Some people, like the two of us, have very dark and dry humor.
Right, exactly. And then, sarcasm is just a part of your humor.
Endless, yeah. So
Interesting.
I'm sure people who have kids and spend more time with their own kids this is not a surprise to them, but as early as 5 to 6 months, babies have learned enough about the world around them to comprehend the basic tenet of humor.
Huh.
In the fact that like they understand that this is what reality is, and if anything is slightly different than reality, it's funny. Like when we bulge our eyes at them,
pretty interesting.
or like when we change our faces at them, or if like we mean to do something and it fails, like do you ever? I don't know if you've ever been in this instance. I've been in this instance with my nephews when they were babies. Like if I go to do something and I fail, they laugh. And it makes you feel judged. But it's because after a while of being in a certain environment and like being in the world, they know that certain actions are supposed to produce a certain result. So if it fails, like then it's to them, it's a distortion of reality, so they think it's funny.
Yeah. That's interesting. Babies are fucking smart, y'all. Like,
right? Isn't this redonkulous? So they can start picking up on like just breaking out into ridiculous laughter that's spontaneous because they understand these patterns in the world and that they're different.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then their personality just changes everything.
Yeah. And it says like they even they start to pick up on social cues too. So then they'll think that's funny. And that can help structure based on the social cues of the environment they're in, that can structure their personality. But then as they start to get older, they're going to start to use humor to influence what they actually laugh at.
What's crazy?
So based on this alone, everyone's relationship with laughter as they like age and develop their personality is slightly different because you start to laugh at different things.
This is why some people find certain things funny and the others don't. Yeah. That's crazy. Wow.
And so much of like the environment that you're in, like everything else really influences what you end up laughing at.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Isn't it? Guys, I felt so fulfilled on this journey of learning about laughter. Now I have
it's probably the same with crying in some aspects. Some people cry at some things and others don't. Like a sad movie, it's like, all right. Like a very sad movie, someone can cry, but then the person next to me be like, okay, it was sad, but I'm not crying. Like probably a similar sense where it's like depending on
you're more sensitive to certain things.
Yeah. And same thing with humor. It's like you find things humorous while others don't.
But I feel like there's more of a general consensus about what's sad than there is about what's funny.
True, yeah, because humor is very subjective.
Yeah, I think that like what ends up being dependent on the person, an individual, is how much we react to the things that are sad.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a universal understanding of things that are sad. You know?
Yeah, because funny is just very subjective. Like humor.
Yeah, it's such, and then we all have very different responses to it.
Yeah. One person can be hysterically laughing and the other can be like, that's funny.
Laughter, so interesting.
Mm.
So I highly encourage anybody the next time that they are like with an animal or they're with another person, just study the laughter because it's just so curious. So the last little part of this that I was super interested in, and I think we talked about this before. So a way that animals, especially monkeys, play is through tickling, right?
Yeah.
It sends off
Yeah.
a sense response, just like the little gorilla or little chimp that I had you listen to. It sets off a certain response that just triggers us to
Why are we ticklish?
laugh.
That's another thing you should probably
So
Google.
what
you
I
already know?
did start with is why we can't tickle ourselves, which leads to why we are ticklish, more or less.
Okay.
So the saddest part about why we can't tickle ourselves is that your brain knows it's coming.
Oh, you can't really surprise yourself.
That's literally it. You can't surprise yourself with the sensation of tickling because your cerebellum is monitoring your movements. So it's like, oh, you're really close to you're gonna tickle yourself now. Like you can't.
Yeah, you can't just there's already an inception of a thought. So your brain is already
that
10
you're
steps
gonna tickle
ahead.
yourself. Right.
Yeah. You can't
Which
just be like,
is
okay, later on I'm
super
gonna
annoying.
randomly it was like later on I'm gonna randomly tickle myself. Like, no, you
Yeah,
already have
so
the
your
thought.
brain, you trigger the action to do it, and then your brain cancels out the response, like
Yeah.
the same in the same breath,
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
speak. But there have been studies that if you like go to tickle yourself and then you delay it and you like do it in a
Yeah.
delay, that you can like trigger yourself to have like a
That's
slight
another glitch in the system.
another glitch in this, like a slight tickle, which I thought was something that was really interesting, but I didn't specifically look up why can other
why
people
that
tickle us,
yeah,
but it definitely has something to do with like the hairs on your skin.
for sure. Yeah,
And
something like that. Hair
of them.
follicles.
We might have to go into the difference between like being tickled and like an itch
Oh yeah, two different
because they're
Sure,
similar.
yeah, similar enough, but different sensations, obviously.
Especially, this leads me to like the question of what's the difference between having like a tickle in your throat and like having a scratchy throat. Like, not that you can scratch your throat, but it's all has to do with the silica. Like, it all has to do with hairs.
Yeah, it's all different, just types of yeah. This is really getting way too.
I'm going into a totally different
That's
different
another
podcast.
episode, y'all.
But yeah, these are all the awesome things that I learned about laughing. Do you feel fulfilled in this information, knowing about the history of laughter?
Yeah, no, because there's an actual answer to our podcast today. Like we have actual answers, scientific proof.
Every once in a while, you guys, we won't just go on a tangent with all of our opinions and things that we've experienced. We will
And then
sometimes bring you fact.
And then leave saying like, what is life?
What is life? What is life? Well, you know what tickling is now. So every
Yeah.
time I'm so curious if the human race exists. Speaking of this, did you see that space scientists have discovered two potentially very similar to Earth inhabitable planets
No, I did
that have
not.
been like officially discovered?
Lovely. Like recently, like this week, it got
I don't know.
posted?
I saw something like 2 days ago.
Oh, interesting.
I
I
didn't
did
really go
not.
that far into it because I was like, oh, great. But something we can talk about in the future. But I digress. If the human race exists, I wonder what laughter will continue to progress
Evolve.
into. Like if there will be any more purposes or evolutions or
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think obviously this is the question that we don't know, obviously, because
right,
we
what will
won't,
it become?
or if it will ever stop or end. Like it could just be now a survival thing. It could end the social aspect might end, just like how it began, and it might just
Very
end up
true.
being it might revert back to just being a survival thing. We don't know.
I wonder if this is all very theoretical, but I wonder if all of the and this is a very fucking bleak, but if all of the events that could make us laugh or all of the things that would trigger the response of laughter were to disappear,
That's so sad.
that would be the way that it would, right? Like you wouldn't, if you had no reason to laugh due to humor or personality.
That's why some kids, in like very sad situations, maybe they just grew up in a really sad situation and they just never knew what happy laughter was, you know?
Yeah, and they don't necessarily know
Yeah, how to do that.
how to do it for anything other than a social skill or
Right.
like a survival skill.
Right. And then, those poor kids, that sucks.
That does suck.
And
Okay. Well, this is
that's
also
a
why
true thing.
this
That's a
is why,
true
yeah, this is
unfortunate
why
thing.
laugh therapy, like laughter therapy exists. But here are some other reasons. If any of the things that we just said or the video, please go back and listen to both the fox and the chimpanzee laugh. Like if you're ever struggling, there are videos of like parakeets and cockatoos laughing. I went through all of them. I also ended up in the midst of this deep dive, found the old voiceovers of like the Alan. Remember those? Do you remember those?
Wait, what is that from? It's like right here, but I'm just like, where is that from?
I hands down am playing it now. Wait, I think it's a hedgehog. It was from Animal Planet used to do the voice. Oh no, sorry. I'm wrong. It was BBC that used to do the voiceovers.
I would say Animal Planet has definitely done the voiceovers, and they've definitely done one of those.
BBC started it. I for sure am playing this for you now.
Alan!
Because you're gonna die. I ended up finding it in like the little stint of fun. Because obviously when you look for animals laughing, it just gives you a bunch of funny videos to watch that make you laugh of animal videos that make you laugh. But I watched this and I want to cry. Okay, ready? Oh wait, did you hear it when I started?
Yeah, you were sharing your sound
okay,
before.
wasn't everyone off? Ready?
Alan! Alan!
She's all neck and legs. Look at her.
Like you remember that it's like a little groundhog, just like he's standing there going, huh. It's just Ellen. Here are reasons why. Hopefully, you've already started laughing from this episode, friends. But here are more psychological benefits and physiological benefits of laughing. And the things that I actually didn't really know. Sorry, I said psychological. We know psychological benefits are to laughter to help reduce stress. And we know that it helps reduce stress, and we know that it helps people feel like relieved from anxiety. There's probably way more than that involved in the psychological stuff, but the most important thing is we know that it's a good way to help reduce stress. But here are some physiological changes that I didn't actually know, changes that happen to your body. It changes your body's chemistry and it changes your brain functioning. So laughter increases your heart rate and increases your oxygen consumption for a short time because you're breathing out so much. You have to keep catching your breath. It affects your heart function because it increases the stroke volume, like how many times your heart moves, and cardiac in output. Which is very interesting. And it dilates your blood vessels. So you're able to your heart functions better. That one doesn't matter. It revs up your sympathetic nervous system, which is interesting. Helps you regulate your blood pressure better. Lowers your stress hormone, cortisol.
Yep. That's what I need.
Ooh. It increases, there's a lot of words that are Latin here, but it helps to support your immune system by increasing the what they refer to as like the natural killer cell activity, which is like your body's response to attacking pathogens, which is super interesting. And we knew this already, but it raises endorphins and increases the human growth hormone.
Oh, really?
So interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Like all positive things. Related things, it can help you to decrease glucose levels. It can help you to lower your likelihood for heart disease because it makes your heart do so much work when you.
Oh, true.
It increases your pain tolerance, which I have to remember the next time that I am in pain.
Just start laughing.
Yeah, it reduces stress and anxiety. I mean,
why not?
Well, these are interesting. I didn't know these. Laughter decreased inflammation in people with rheumatoid arthritis. Just so interesting. And it helped humor therapy, which is something I've never heard about, but I love that's a thing. Led to improvements in cognitive functioning. That's cool.
Period.
Period. Apparently it was these are all like little blurbs from other like data and research.
Yeah.
But in a study of 30 adults, it helped all 30 adults by watching 20-minute humorous videos to improve their cognitive functioning, including their learning ability. It lowered they had issues with delayed recall, but it helped improve their recall and offered stronger visual recognition.
At this point, I'm not surprised. Like, that with all these like benefits from laughter, that it's just like it.
The drug that we all need to get hooked on is laughter. Like for real though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the science is telling us that it has all these benefits. Why not? But then again, of course, like everyone, there are unfortunate situations where people don't laugh and like just haven't learned how to laugh, like the kid example that I kind of went through.
Yeah.
And that just sucks because that's just like, you're just missing out on like all these like naturally good things that your body produces for you.
And I mean, it's not to say that we don't live in a world that makes it really hard for us to laugh at stuff, but you want to know how people, and I will say like myself, because you are welcome to rope yourself in, but I did not want to speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
People like myself become jaded or become sarcastic or become, I'm thinking there's another word that I can't think of fully off the top of my head.
Jaded.
Like syndicated. Well, syndicated doesn't really. But like we become these people filled with dark humor because the only way to survive is to really laugh about shit, right? Like we end up, and you have to find this shit to laugh about because we don't always have a lot of examples of that, and seems to be more and more of examples for us not to laugh that are coming out into the light. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to live in a world where I couldn't find stuff funny. I mean, I just had a really unfortunate situation with my father a couple of days ago, and like I can laugh about it now, like I'm past it and I'm looking at it from the outside. I'm like, wow, this is really funny. Like this would be something that would be a really good skit for someone to write. But you have to make light of things the best that you can because otherwise you get stuck in there. Yeah.
It's going to eat you alive. But I think because we have the ability to do it, like it helps us out while others, when they get into those types of situations, don't have that ability, and then that's where they get stuck.
Yeah.
So I think we're just
lucky.
Yeah, I think we're just lucky that we can twist it in a way that it's humorous, just so we can get through it.
My humor is probably my favorite thing about myself.
Oh yeah, same. I think a lot of people like us will probably say the same.
A lot of people who don't like us don't like our humor, and that's why they don't like us.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just like we're all the same type of person.
I will say that it is 100% something that I only like about myself now because I am a fully developed version of myself, right? The second we if no one else laughs at my jokes, I will stand there and laugh at my joke because I can, have the security to do that now, right? And I have me too. The security to say the thing that I want to say that's funny, or like to say the thing that could possibly like be controversial, but it is funny if you have, my perspective on it.
Yeah.
You can indulge in that more the more I don't want to say the older you get, but the more secure you get.
I feel the more confident you are as you develop. Also, pause for a second because my dad's calling. He's probably on the plane right now. So
ooh, exciting. Okay, go for it.
Hello. Hello.
Just kidding.
I'm home. Sorry, I missed your call.
I just want everyone to know that last week I got yelled at on the phone by my mother, and now today Maria gets to talk to her dad on the phone.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Just this enough. I really hope that anybody who's listening can enjoy this episode, at least get a good laugh out of it. Oh boy.
Jesus Christ.
I want you to keep all of that in. I want all of that to stay in the episode. There was a moment where I laughed so hard that I was crying. Like, talk about laughter. I will say this though.
Okay.
I currently hold the record for being able to get a parent off the phone.
Oh yeah. Well, I feel bad cutting my parents off, obviously, especially because like, okay, my dad's going to the Philippines, guys. That's why I had to pick up the phone. He called twice. I was like, all right, like he's probably on the plane. But then of course he has like a fucking story. I'm like, I just saw you like an hour ago.
But there's a lot of life that happens in that hour.
Yes, agreed. So they are bringing home a TV. Like, so you can. Because it was cheap here. I was like, yeah, Costco, yeah, obviously. It's a fucking when I tell it's a 65-inch fucking TV that
I just am picturing that giant TV in the plane now. That's great.
Yeah, so my goodness. His story was my father works for the airport. Someone hooked him up and he had to pay, just a discounted price on like getting that TV shipped through to Manila. So
amazing.
He had to tell me the whole thing.
And what you managed to get out in a single sentence. I love parents. Oh my goodness.
I know, right? I'm like, he had a whole like beginning, middle, end, subplot.
It's the most interesting thing that's happened to him in the last hour. Give him a break.
I know, and he went into like, yeah, like I have to now go buy him like a souvenir from the Philippines and blah, blah, blah. And your uncle was like, yeah, go buy him. I'm like, I got it. Like you have to buy him something when you're in the Philippines. As I'm like, all right, hurry this up. Like,
oh my goodness. If you guys will listen to this episode on Spotify, please go to YouTube and at least watch the last 5 minutes because it was amazing. And hopefully
you can see all my reactions.
You got a good laugh out of any part of today. And if not, you got a little bit of history humor or humor history. I said that the wrong way.
Sure, it's okay.
I got one good weekend on what we were going to talk about. I have no idea what's to come next week, but we are so grateful that you're with us, listeners.
Probably that podcast thing that you made me listen to. Not made me, but recommended last week. Good. The Illuminati. I listened to it.
Amazing. I'll have to listen to it again because I'm so many episodes farther, but
yeah, we can talk about the Illuminati. That
would be great.
Interesting.
I'm all for it.
Great. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for joining us, you guys. We love to have you. Hopefully you got a little bit of laugh and maybe a little bit of perspective out of this episode. We'll see you on the next one.
Okay, bye.